Rain hammered against the windows of Seoul National University's library, where Sophia Chun sat hunched over her laptop at 3 in the morning. At 26, she was older than most of her classmates in the graduate linguistics program, having worked for 3 years before saving enough to pursue her PhD in Korean English translation studies. Her phone buzzed for the 10th time that hour. She already knew what the messages said without looking. The hospital in Los Angeles needed payment for her mother's chemotherapy. The experimental treatment that was actually working, that was giving her mother a fighting chance against stage 4 ovarian cancer, cost $30,000 per round. Insurance covered none of it. Sophia had already emptied her savings, sold everything she owned back home, taken out the maximum in student loans. Her part-time tutoring job barely covered rent and food in expensive Seoul, let alone international medical bills. She finally looked at her phone. The latest message from her sister, Simone, was short and devastating. "They're stopping treatment Friday if we can't pay. Mom has maybe 3 months without it." Sophia's hands shook as she typed back, "I'll find the money. Promise." But she had no idea how. A voice startled her from her despair. "The library closes in 5 minutes." She looked up to find the security guard, an elderly Korean man who'd grown accustomed to her late-night study sessions, standing nearby with sympathetic eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Park. I'm leaving now." As she packed her bag, her phone buzzed again. This time, an unknown number. Sophia almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Hello." A woman's crisp voice responded in English. "Am I speaking with Sophia Chen?" "Yes." "Who is this?" "My name is Attorney Kim Mira. I represent a client who may have a business proposal for you. Are you available to meet tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Sophia's exhausted brain struggled to process this. "A business proposal? I think you have the wrong person. I'm just a graduate student." "We have the correct person. My client is very specific about his requirements. You fit them precisely." Attorney Kim's tone was professional but not unkind. "The meeting will take 1 hour. You'll be compensated for your time regardless of whether you accept the proposal. Shall I send you the address?" 1 hour. Compensated just for listening. Sophia had nothing to lose. "Fine. 2 p.m. Send the address." After hanging up, Sophia stared at her phone, wondering if she'd just agreed to something dangerous or desperate. Maybe both. The address led Sophia to one of Seoul's most prestigious office towers in Gangnam. The law firm of Kim and Associates occupied the entire 40th floor, all glass walls and expensive modern art. Attorney Kim turned out to be a woman in her 50s, immaculately dressed, with the kind of presence that came from years of high-stakes negotiations. She greeted Sophia warmly and led her to a private conference room. "Before my client joins us, I need you to sign a non-disclosure agreement. Regardless of whether you accept his proposal, you cannot discuss what's said in this room. The penalty for violation is significant." Sophia's instincts screamed warning, but she signed. She needed to at least hear what this was about. Attorney Kim made a brief phone call in Korean, then turned back to Sophia with a professional smile. "He'll be here shortly. Would you like coffee? Tea? Water is fine." They sat in silence for exactly 3 minutes before the conference room door opened. The man who entered made Sophia's breath catch involuntarily. He was probably in his early 30s, tall for a Korean man, wearing a suit that screamed wealth and power. His face was striking, sharp features, intense dark eyes, an expression of cool assessment that suggested he was accustomed to being the smartest person in any room. He sat across from Sophia without offering his hand or a smile. "Ms. Chen, thank you for coming. I'm Han Jae-won." His English was perfect, accent subtle and cultivated. Sophia recognized the name immediately. Han Jae-won was the heir to Han Industries, one of Korea's largest technology conglomerates. She'd seen his face in business magazines, always unsmiling, always alone. "Mr. Han." Sophia kept her voice steady despite her nervousness. "Your attorney mentioned a business proposal." "Yes, I'll be direct because I respect your time and intelligence. I need a wife. You need money. I'm proposing a contractual marriage." Sophia blinked, certain she'd misheard. "I'm sorry, what?" My grandfather founded Han Industries. When he died 2 years ago, his will contained a specific provision. I can only inherit full control of the company if I'm married by my 33rd birthday. If I'm not married by that date, control passes to my uncle, who will destroy everything my grandfather built. Why tell me this? Because my 33rd birthday is in 6 weeks. I've been looking for the right candidate for this arrangement. You fit all my requirements. Sophia's academic mind kicked in despite her shock. Requirements. Attorney Kim slid a folder across the table. You're not Korean, which prevents family entanglement. You're educated and presentable. You're financially desperate, which makes you motivated. And you have no romantic attachments in Korea that would complicate the arrangement. Sophia felt simultaneously insulted and intrigued. You investigated me. Thoroughly, Jae-won confirmed. I also know about your mother's medical situation, the experimental treatment in Los Angeles, the unpaid hospital bills. Anger flared. That's private. Nothing is private when sufficient resources are applied to finding information. He leaned forward slightly. I'm offering you a solution, Ms. Chun, a contractual marriage lasting 18 months. In exchange, I'll pay all your mother's medical expenses, every treatment, every bill, for as long as she needs care, plus a salary of $30,000 per month for the duration of our arrangement. The numbers were staggering. Sophia's mouth went dry. $30,000 a month? For 18 months. Plus full medical coverage. You can continue your studies. After 18 months, we divorce quietly. You return to your life with enough money to complete your PhD debt-free and ensure your mother's long-term care. I retain control of my company. Why 18 months specifically? The will requires I remain married for a minimum of 1 year to prevent obviously fraudulent arrangements. 18 months provides a buffer and makes the marriage appear legitimate. Sophia's mind raced. This was insane. Illegal, probably. Definitely unethical. But it would save her mother's life. What exactly would this marriage entail? Attorney Kim opened the folder. A detailed contract. You would live in Mr. Han's residence. Attend public events as his wife when required. Maintain the appearance of a genuine marriage to his family and business associates. In private, you would have separate quarters and complete autonomy. Separate quarters, Sophia repeated. So this would be purely contractual, Jae-won confirmed. I have no interest in a real marriage, Ms. Chun. This is a business transaction. You provide legitimacy. I provide financial security. When the 18 months conclude, we both walk away with what we need. Sophia studied him across the table. His face revealed nothing, no emotion, no warmth, just cold calculation. Everything about him screamed that he meant exactly what he said. This was business. I need to think about it. You have until tomorrow at noon. After that, I'll move on to my second choice. He stood, their meeting apparently concluded. Attorney Kim will answer any questions about the contract. My personal number is in the folder should you decide to accept. He left without another word, the door closing with an expensive whisper. Sophia sat in silence, staring at the folder containing a contract that could save her mother's life and solve all her financial problems. All she had to do was marry a complete stranger and pretend to love him for 18 months. Attorney Kim's voice was gentle. I know this is overwhelming, but for what it's worth, Mr. Han is a man of his word. If he promises to pay your mother's medical bills, he will. The contract is ironclad. Why me? Specifically me? You're educated enough to navigate his world, foreign enough to avoid his social circle's complications, and desperate enough to say yes. Kim paused. He needs someone who won't fall in love with him, Ms. Chun. Someone who understands this is purely transactional. Can you be that person? Sophia thought about her mother, about the chemotherapy that was working, about 3 more months to live versus years. Yes, she said quietly. I can be that person. 24 hours later, Sophia sat in Attorney Kim's office, signing her name to the most surreal document she'd ever read. The contract was 73 pages of legalese covering every conceivable aspect of their arrangement. Financial terms, Immediate payment of all outstanding medical bills. Monthly salary of $30,000, paid on the first of each month. Continued coverage of all medical expenses for her mother for the duration of the contract and 1 year after. Residential terms. She would live in the Han family estate in Hanamdong. Private bedroom suite with attached bath and study. Shared common areas. Weekly family dinners mandatory. Public obligations. Attend a minimum of 2 social events per month as his wife. Wear appropriate attire, wardrobe provided. Display appropriate affection in public. Hand-holding. Brief kisses acceptable. Nothing more required. Private boundaries. No expectation of physical intimacy. No romantic involvement. Complete financial and personal autonomy within the bounds of maintaining the marriage's public appearance. Termination clause. After 18 months, divorce proceedings would be initiated. All financial obligations to her mother's care would continue for 1 additional year. A termination payment of $100,000 upon successful completion. Confidentiality. Complete non-disclosure of the contractual nature of the marriage, during and after. Penalty for violation. Return of all money received plus $5 million in damages. As Sophia signed the final page, she felt like she was selling her soul. But she was saving her mother's life. That had to be worth something. Attorney Kim witnessed the signature with a warm smile. Congratulations, Ms. Chun. Or should I say, the future Mrs. Han. When does this start? Immediately. Mr. Han has arranged for your belongings to be moved from your apartment to the estate this evening. The wedding will be in 2 weeks. Small, private, immediate family only. We'll announce it publicly the following day. 2 weeks. Sophia's voice was faint. The timeline is non-negotiable. Mr. Han's birthday is in 6 weeks. We need the marriage legally established well before then to avoid any appearance of last-minute fraud. Sophia nodded numbly. This was happening. This was really happening. One piece of advice, Attorney Kim said as she walked Sophia to the elevator. Mr. Han is not a warm man. He's brilliant, driven, and completely focused on his goals. Don't expect friendship or kindness. He'll fulfill every term of the contract, but nothing more. Protect your heart, Ms. Chen. My heart isn't part of the deal, Sophia replied. This is purely business. Let's hope you can remember that. The Han family estate was located in Hanamdong, Seoul's most exclusive neighborhood. As the car passed through the security gate, Sophia stared at the enormous traditional Korean house. A hammock on steroids, combining classical architecture with obvious modern luxury. A staff member greeted her and led her through corridors that smelled of expensive wood and subtle incense. Her suite turned out to be larger than her entire previous apartment. Bedroom, sitting area, private bathroom with a soaking tub, and a small study with built-in bookshelves. Mr. Han's quarters are in the east wing, the staff member explained in careful English. You won't disturb each other. Breakfast is served at 7, dinner at 8. Mr. Han usually works late. After the woman left, Sophia sat on the edge of the massive bed and called her sister. Simone? The hospital should have received payment confirmation for Mom's treatment. Her sister's gasp came through clearly. Sophia, what did you do? The hospital called an hour ago. They said all of Mom's bills are paid. Everything, including the next 6 months of treatment. How did you get that kind of money? Sophia took a breath. I got married. Silence. Then, you what? I married someone. It's complicated, but it's real, and it's legal, and Mom's going to be okay. Sophia, what the hell are you talking about? You're not dating anyone. It happened fast. I'll explain everything when I can. But right now, I need you to trust me. Mom's treatment continues. That's what matters. After more questions that Sophia deflected, she hung up and stared at the diamond engagement ring on her finger. A tasteful solitaire that had appeared in a velvet box that morning with no note, no ceremony, nothing personal at all, just like everything else about this arrangement. The wedding took place on a Thursday afternoon at a small chapel in Seoul. Only immediate family attended, Jaewon's mother and father, his younger sister, and his grandfather's older brother. Sophia wore a simple white dress that attorney Kim had selected. Jae-won wore a black suit. They stood before an officiant and recited vows that meant nothing. I, Han Jae-won, take you, Sophia Chun, to be my lawfully wedded wife. I, Sophia Chun, take you, Han Jae-won, to be my lawfully wedded husband. The kiss was brief and perfunctory, lips barely touching, no emotion whatsoever. Jae-won's mother cried anyway, dabbing at her eyes with an expensive handkerchief. His father looked skeptical. His sister, Han Soo-min, studied Sophia with undisguised curiosity. At the small reception dinner afterward, Jae-won's mother, Mrs. Han Young-suk, pulled Sophia aside. I know this marriage seems sudden, she said in surprisingly good English. But Jae-won has always been impulsive when he decides something is right. I'm just glad he finally chose to settle down. Sophia smiled and said nothing, guilt twisting in her stomach. Mrs. Han continued. He's not an easy man, very focused on work, very private. But he has a good heart underneath. Give him time. I will, Sophia lied. Across the room, Jae-won stood with his father, speaking in Korean too rapidly for Sophia to follow with her limited language skills. But their body language was clear. The father was angry. The son was defensive. Later, in the car back to the estate, Jae-won spoke for the first time since the ceremony. My father thinks I married you to spite him. Sophia glanced over. Did you? No. I married you because you served a purpose. He was looking at his phone, not at her. The spite is just a pleasant bonus. Your mother seems nice. She is. She'll try to bond with you. Let her. It will make the arrangement more believable. Okay. They rode the rest of the way in silence, two strangers who just legally bound themselves to each other for 18 months of pretend intimacy. The first month of marriage was an exercise in careful coexistence. They developed a routine. Jae-won left for work by 7 each morning. Sophia attended her graduate classes and worked on her thesis. They had dinner together 3 times a week, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, sitting at opposite ends of a table built for 12, making stilted conversation about nothing important. On Saturdays, they attended whatever social obligation attorney Kim had scheduled, charity galas, business dinners, family gatherings. They'd arrive together, Jae-won's hand resting on the small of Sophia's back in a gesture that looked possessive and romantic. They'd smile, make small talk, present a united front. Then they'd return home and retreat to opposite wings of the house. Sophia talked to her mother every week. The treatment was working. Her numbers were improving. She'd gained weight, had color in her cheeks again. Simone sent photos that made Sophia cry with relief. The money was working. The deal was working. So why did she feel so hollow? One evening in the 6th week of marriage, Sophia found Jae-won in the library, a room she'd been avoiding because it was clearly his private sanctuary. He sat in a leather chair, whiskey in hand, staring at nothing. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were here. It's your house too now. His voice was tired. You can be anywhere you want. Sophia hesitated in the doorway. She should leave. They had boundaries for a reason. But he looked lonely, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with work. Are you okay? He looked at her then, really looked, for the first time since the wedding. Do you know why my grandfather's will required marriage? No, because he thought I was incapable of human connection. He told me on his deathbed that I'd built walls so high I'd die alone and miserable. Jae-won took a drink. He made marriage a condition of inheritance to force me to let someone in. Did it work? I hired a wife instead. So no, it didn't work. He smiled bitterly. I'm still alone. I'm just legally bound to someone now. Sophia should have left then. Should have maintained the professional distance. Instead, she walked into the library and sat in the chair across from him. Tell me about your grandfather. Jae-won looked surprised. Why? Because we're going to be married for 18 months. We should at least know something real about each other. For a long moment he said nothing. Then slowly he began to talk. He told her about his grandfather who'd built Han Industries from nothing. about growing up under impossible expectations, about his father who resented never being good enough to inherit, about learning early that showing emotion was weakness. Sophia listened, and when he finished, she told him about her mother, about growing up with a single parent who worked 3 jobs, about the scholarship to UCLA that changed her life, about choosing to study in Korea because she wanted to understand a culture that fascinated her. They talked until 2 in the morning, until the whiskey bottle was empty and the sky was starting to lighten. As Sophia stood to leave, Jae-won spoke quietly. "This doesn't change anything. I know. It's still just business. Good. As long as we're clear." But as Sophia walked back to her wing of the house, she had the unsettling feeling that something had shifted anyway. After that night in the library, things were different. Not dramatically. Jae-won didn't suddenly become warm or affectionate. But he started joining Sophia for breakfast on weekends, started asking about her thesis, started including her in conversations about the company when they attended events together. Sophia found herself looking forward to their Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday dinners. Found herself lingering in conversation instead of retreating to her room. 3 months into the marriage, Jae-won's sister Soomin invited Sophia to lunch. Over expensive sushi, Soomin studied Sophia with sharp, intelligent eyes. "You're different from what I expected." "Different how?" "My brother has dated before. Beautiful women, usually. Models, actresses, socialites. Women who wanted him for his money or status." Soomin paused. "You don't look at him like that. You look at him like he's human." Sophia carefully chose her words. "He is human." "Yes, but most people forget that. They see the company, the money, the power. They don't see Jae-won." Soomin leaned forward. "What do you see?" "Someone who's lonely. Someone who's carrying more responsibility than any person should. Someone who never learned how to let people in because he was taught it was dangerous." "And you think you can change him?" "No. I don't think anyone can change anyone else. But maybe I can make 18 months less lonely." Sophia realized what she'd said too late. Soomin's eyes narrowed. 18 months? That's a very specific time frame. "I just meant, my brother's inheritance activates after 12 months of marriage. 18 months would be exactly long enough to make the marriage look legitimate before divorcing." Soomin's expression was unreadable. "This is a contract marriage, isn't it?" Sophia's heart hammered. The NDA, the penalties. But looking at Soomin's face, she knew lying would be pointless. "Please don't tell anyone." Soomin sat back, not looking angry, just sad. "I won't. Because despite the contract, despite the arrangement, I think you actually care about him. And God knows he needs someone who does. It's not like that. It's just business. Keep telling yourself that," Soomin said gently. "Maybe you'll believe it when everything changes." For months into the marriage, Sophia came home from class to find Jae-won in the living room with a woman she'd never seen before. The woman was stunning, delicate Korean beauty, expensive clothes, an air of belonging that Sophia had never quite achieved in this world. Jae-won stood when Sophia entered, his face carefully blank. "Sophia, this is Lee Yoon-hee." The name hit Sophia like a physical blow. Lee Yoon-hee. She knew that name. Yoon-hee was the daughter of one of Korea's wealthiest families. More importantly, she was Jae-won's first love, the woman he dated for 3 years before she'd broken off their engagement 5 years ago to marry a chaebol heir her family had chosen. That marriage had apparently ended 2 years ago. Sophia remembered reading about the high-profile divorce. "It's nice to meet you," Sophia managed, extending her hand. Yoon-hee's handshake was brief and cold. "And you? I've heard so much about the American student who captured Jae-won's heart." The words were polite. The tone was mocking. "Yoon, he was just leaving," Jae-won said, his voice tight. "Of course. I just wanted to deliver my news in person." Yoon-hee smiled, but her eyes were hard. "I'm pregnant, Jae-won. 3 months. The baby is yours." The room tilted. Sophia gripped the back of a chair to steady herself. Jae-won's face had gone completely white. "That's impossible." "London. 6 months ago. The business conference." Yoon-hee's smile turned triumphant. We had drinks. You were lonely. I was newly divorced. One thing led to another. Surely you remember. Sophia's mind raced. 6 months ago. 2 months before Jae-won had proposed the contract marriage to her. If you're pregnant, it's not mine. DNA testing is so reliable these days. I'm happy to provide proof. Yoon-hee placed a hand on her still flat stomach. I thought you should know before I tell my family. They'll be thrilled, of course. A grandchild, a connection between the Lee and Han families. It's everything they wanted from our original engagement. Jae-won's voice was ice. Get out. I'll be in touch. We have a lot to discuss. Yoon-hee walked to the door, then paused. Oh, and Sophia? I hope you signed a good prenup. This changes everything. After she left, silence filled the room like poison. Finally, Sophia found her voice. Is it true? Did you sleep with her 6 months ago? Jae-won sat down heavily, his head in his hands. I don't know. Maybe. There was a conference in London. We ran into each other at the hotel bar. I was drunk. I barely remember that night. But it's possible. It's possible. Sophia felt something crack inside her chest. Which was ridiculous. This was a contract marriage. She had no claim on Jae-won. No right to feel betrayed. And yet, what happens now? Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. I don't know. He looked up at her, and for the first time since they'd met, she saw genuine fear in his eyes. If that child is mine, if he goes public with this before the inheritance is secured, your father could use it to contest the will. Say the marriage to me was fraudulent. Yes. And even if he can't contest it legally, the scandal would be massive. The company's stock would take a hit. Yes. Sophia walked to the window, looking out at the manicured gardens. You should get a paternity test. Verify whether the child is actually yours before making any decisions. And if it is mine, then you'll have a choice to make. Honor your contract with me, or honor your responsibility to your child and its mother. Jae-won stood and crossed to her, stopping just close enough that she could feel his presence. Sophia, don't. She kept her back to him. We had an agreement. 18 months, purely business. If circumstances have changed, we'll deal with them professionally. You're angry. I'm not angry. I have no right to be angry. This is exactly what we agreed to. No emotional involvement. No romantic expectations. Then why won't you look at me? Because if she looked at him, he'd see the truth she'd been hiding even from herself. That somewhere in the last 4 months the contract marriage had started feeling real. That she'd started caring about him. That the thought of him with Yoon-hee, of him choosing his first love over their arrangement, hurt more than it should. Attorney Kim's warning echoed. Protect your heart, Miss Chun. Too late. I need to study, Sophia said quietly. We can discuss this more when you have actual information instead of speculation. She walked to her wing of the house without looking back, and if tears fell once she closed her bedroom door, no one needed to know. 2 weeks of excruciating tension followed. Jae-won arranged for private DNA testing. Yoon-hee complied, her lawyers present to ensure everything was documented. During those 2 weeks, Sophia and Jae-won barely spoke. They canceled their Tuesday and Thursday dinners. They attended one charity event together, smiling for cameras while maintaining careful physical distance. Sophia threw herself into her thesis, spending long hours at the university library to avoid the estate. Her mother's health continued improving. The treatment was working miracles. Simone sent updates filled with hope. The money was still working. The deal was still working. Everything else was falling apart. On a Friday evening, Attorney Kim requested Sophia's presence at the law office. When she arrived, Jae-won was already there, his face unreadable. Attorney Kim's expression was grave as she slid a folder across the table. The DNA results. Jae-won opened the folder. Read. His face went very still. Well, Sophia's voice was steadier than she felt. 99.9% probability of paternity. He closed the folder. The child is mine. Sophia's heart sank even as her mind worked through the implications. What does this mean for the contract? Attorney Kim answered. Technically, the contract remains valid. You're still legally married, and that marriage still satisfies the will's requirements. However, Ms. Lee's pregnancy changes the practical situation considerably. She'll expect him to leave me, Sophia said flatly, to marry her instead. She's certainly indicated as much to her lawyers. The Lee family is putting pressure on Mr. Han to do the right thing. Jae-won finally spoke, his voice hollow. I never wanted children, never planned for them. But if this child is mine, I can't just ignore that responsibility. Of course not, Sophia said quietly. No one's asking you to. The contract was always temporary. We both knew that. She forced herself to look at him directly. If you want to end this arrangement early, I'll agree. Your responsibility is to your child now, not to a business contract with me. Attorney Kim interjected carefully. If the contract is terminated before the 18-month period, the financial terms would need to be renegotiated. I don't care about the money, Sophia interrupted. My mother's treatment is working. I have enough saved now to cover the remaining months. What matters is that Jae-won does what's right for his child. Jae-won was staring at her. You'd walk away? Just like that. This was always a business transaction. The business has changed. We adapt. You'd get nothing. No completion bonus. No continued medical coverage. I'd get my life back. And you'd get to be a father to your child. Sophia stood. If you'll excuse me, I have class in the morning. Sophia, wait. But she was already leaving, walking out of the conference room with her head high and her heart breaking, because she'd just realized the cruelest truth of all. She'd fallen in love with her contract husband, and she was about to lose him to the woman who'd always owned his heart. That night, Sophia began packing. She'd return to her old apartment, complete her PhD on student loans, figure out the rest later. She'd been desperate before. She'd survive desperate again. She was folding clothes when Jae-won appeared in her doorway. What are you doing? Packing. I assume you'll want me out of the house soon. I never said that. You didn't have to. Yoon-hee is pregnant with your child. You're going to leave me to be with her. It's the logical choice. Jae-won crossed the room in 3 strides and grabbed her hands, stopping her frantic packing. Look at me. Sophia kept her eyes down. Let go. Not until you look at me. She finally met his gaze, and the intensity there nearly broke her. I'm not leaving you for Yoon-hee, he said firmly. You should. She's having your baby, which doesn't mean I have to marry her. I'll support the child. I'll be a father. But I don't love Yoon-hee. I never did, really. I thought I did when I was younger, but what I loved was the idea of her. The perfect daughter-in-law my family wanted. Then what are you going to do? His hands tightened on hers. I'm going to honor our contract. All 18 months. Unless you want to leave. Why? Why stay married to me when you could have your first love and a family? Because, he stopped, seemed to wrestle with something, then continued. Because you were right that first night in the library. We should know something real about each other. So here's something real. I'm falling in love with you. Sophia's breath caught. That wasn't part of the contract. I know. I broke the rules. I'm sorry. You're sorry you're falling in love with me? I'm sorry because you signed up for a business transaction. Not a complicated mess involving my ex-girlfriend and a baby and feelings I was never supposed to have. He released her hands and stepped back. But I'm not sorry I feel this way. For the first time in my adult life, I wake up looking forward to something other than work. I look forward to breakfast with you. To your terrible jokes at dinner, to finding you curled up in the library reading at midnight. Tears were streaming down Sophia's face now. Jae-won, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to feel the same way. The contract still stands. But I needed you to know the truth before you walked away thinking I chose Yoon-hee over you. I'm choosing you. I'll always choose you. Sophia closed the distance between them and kissed him. Really kissed him. For the first time since their wedding. Not the brief, perfunctory press of lips from the ceremony, but a real kiss full of months of suppressed feeling. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she whispered against his lips, I'm falling in love with you too. I have been for months. I just didn't want to admit it. Attorney Kim is going to kill us. We broke every rule in the contract. I don't care about the contract anymore. Neither do I. They kissed again, and this time it led to Sophia's bed, to clothes being shed, to the first night they spent together as more than business partners, as real husband and wife. Sophia woke to her phone buzzing insistently. Jae-won was already up, standing by the window in his dress pants, looking at his own phone with an expression of grim resignation. What's wrong? He turned to her. Yoon-hee went to the press. It's all over the news. First love returns pregnant to married Chaebol heir. They have photos of her entering a prenatal clinic. Quotes from anonymous sources about our grand romance that never died. Sophia's stomach dropped. How bad is it? Bad. The company's stock dropped 3% at opening. My father has called an emergency board meeting. And Yoon-hee's family is publicly calling for me to divorce you and marry her. What are you going to do? Jae-won set down his phone and came to sit beside her on the bed. I'm going to do what I should have done 5 years ago, when Yoon-hee's family first started manipulating my life. I'm going to tell the truth. What truth? All of it. That you and I started as a contract marriage. That I needed a wife to inherit. That you needed money to save your mother. That we fell in love anyway despite the arrangement. And that Yoon-hee getting pregnant doesn't change the fact that you're my wife and I'm keeping you. If you admit the marriage started as a contract, your father could use that to contest the will. Let him try. I have lawyers. More importantly, I have documentation that we've honored every aspect of the marriage. We've lived together, built a life together. We're more married than half the couples who started with love matches. The scandal will be enormous. Probably. But at least it will be the truth. He took her hand. I'm done lying. I'm done pretending. If you're willing to weather the storm with me, I want to go public with our real story. Sophia thought about her mother, about the medical bills that were paid, about the life she'd built here in Seoul. She thought about the contract she'd signed, the desperate deal she'd made. And she thought about the man she'd come to love, sitting beside her asking her to choose him publicly despite the cost. Okay, we tell the truth. All of it. All of it. 3 days later, Sophia stood beside Jae-won in front of a room full of reporters, cameras flashing, questions being shouted in Korean and English. Attorney Kim had tried to talk them out of this. Jae-won's parents had been furious. Soo-min had been the only one to support them, telling Jae-won he was finally being brave. Jae-won spoke first, his voice calm and clear despite the chaos. Thank you all for coming. I'm here to address the recent news regarding my personal life. Yes, Lee Yoon-hee is pregnant. Yes, DNA testing has confirmed I'm the father. And yes, I intend to support my child and be present in their life. The room erupted. Jae-won waited for quiet. However, I want to be clear about several things. First, I will not be leaving my wife. Sophia and I are staying married. Second, my relationship with Ms. Lee was brief and occurred before my marriage. Third, I'd like to tell you the real story of how Sophia and I met. He proceeded to lay out everything, the contract, the inheritance requirement, the desperate circumstances that brought them together. He explained Sophia's mother's illness, the medical bills, the arrangement that saved her life. And then he explained how they'd fallen in love anyway. When it was Sophia's turn to speak, she kept it simple. I married Jae-won for money. That's true. I was desperate and he offered a solution. But somewhere in the past 5 months, I stopped seeing a contract and started seeing a partner. A friend. Eventually, someone I love. She looked at him. The marriage might have started as business, but it's real now. At least it's real to me. And to me, Jae-won added, taking her hand. The questions came fast and brutal. How can the public trust that your marriage is genuine now? Will the inheritance be contested? What does Ms. Lee's family say about this? What kind of relationship will you have with your child? Jae-won and Sophia answered as honestly as they could. Yes, the marriage was unconventional. Yes, they'd made mistakes. No, they weren't perfect. But they were committed to each other and to making it work. The fallout was as bad as expected and somehow worse. Jae-won's father attempted to contest the inheritance, claiming the contract marriage invalidated the will's intent. The legal battle was fierce but short. Attorney Kim's documentation proved that the marriage, however it started, was legitimate under the law. The board tried to force Jae-won to step down as CEO. He refused and won a shareholder vote of confidence by a narrow margin. Yoon-hee gave a tearful interview claiming she'd been used and abandoned. Her family threatened lawsuits. Jae-won's lawyers handled it all with ruthless efficiency. Through it all, Sophia stayed by his side. She attended board meetings and charity events as his wife. Not his contract wife, not his fake wife, but his real partner. She learned to navigate the vicious world of Korean high society. She finished her thesis while managing the household staff and dodging paparazzi. And slowly, the tide began to turn. Public opinion, initially hostile, started to shift. Think pieces appeared online about modern marriage, about contracts versus love, about finding real connection in unexpected places. A prominent feminist blogger wrote, "Sophia Chun married for practical reasons and found love anyway. That's not a scandal. That's just life." Jae-won's mother, initially devastated by the revelation, eventually came around. "At least he's happy," she told Sophia over tea one afternoon. "I've never seen him this happy. Whatever else you are, you're good for my son." 6 months after the press conference, 10 months into their marriage, things finally stabilized. The stock price recovered. The lawsuits were settled. Yoon-hee, now visibly pregnant, stopped giving interviews. And Sophia found herself sitting in the library with Jae-won, just like that first night. Except now his head was in her lap and she was running her fingers through his hair while he dozed. Sumin found them there and smiled. "You look married." "We are married," Sophia said. "I mean really married. Not contract married. Actually married." "Yeah," Sophia agreed softly. "We are." The 18-month mark passed without ceremony. The contract expired. Legally, Sophia and Jae-won could have divorced. Instead, they renewed their vows. The ceremony was small, just immediate family, close friends, and 14-month-old Ji-woo, who was learning to walk and called Sophia Mama Dia in the most adorable mispronunciation. Yoon-hee attended with her new boyfriend, a kind plastic surgeon who treated her well. She and Sophia weren't friends, exactly, but they'd reached a peaceful coexistence centered on what was best for Ji-woo. As Sophia stood before Jae-won, reciting new vows, real vows, chosen vows, she thought about the desperate woman who'd signed a contract with a stranger to save her mother's life. She'd saved her mother. The experimental treatment had worked. Her mom was in remission now, planning to visit Seoul next month. She'd finished her PhD and was starting a position teaching at Seoul National University in the fall. She'd found a family in Jae-won's sister, who'd become her closest friend in Korea. And she'd found love with a man who'd been a stranger, became a contract husband, and was now her partner in every sense of the word. "I, Sophia Chun Han, take you, Han Jae-won, to be my husband. Not because a contract requires it, not because circumstances demand it, but because I choose you. Every day, for the rest of my life, I choose you." Jae-won's vows were similarly heartfelt, his voice breaking on the words, "I choose you too." This time when they kissed, it was surrounded by applause, by the warmth of family and friends who'd watched them transform a transaction into something real. Sophia had married a stranger to save her family. Instead, she'd built a new family with the stranger who'd become her home. Sometimes the most desperate decisions lead to the most beautiful outcomes. The end. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share to others. Also leave a comment to share your thought about the story.